Race number 2 for the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup about to get underway with Aidan Hills on pole position. Can he go and get a race victory here? He was so close in yesterday's first race. He'll be determined to do it today. Let's see whether he can do it then. He's on pole position is Aidan Hills, Jack Harding alongside him. This grid based on the second fastest times from qualifying yesterday. Luke Herbert and Steve Roberts are next, ahead of Will Stacey and James Blake Baldwin, Patrick Fletcher and Gary Townsend, with Will Stevenson and Nick Rutter rounding out the top 10. Jack Sycamore, David Henderson, Bradley Kent and George Grant together again. Then Simon Baldwin and Chris Richardson didn't set any times in qualifying, so he is at the back of the grid for the first 2 races of the year. Right then, on board with George Grant, race number 2 of the season about to get underway. Away we go. Simon Baldwin there launches off the back row of the grid with Christopher Richardson, and Simon already gaining ground. He too had a troubled qualifying session, but the rest of the field head towards Rich's corner as one. And look at Simon Baldwin up the inside of 2 or 3 cars here into Rich's corner. Bit of contact with Jack Sycamore there. George Grant bails out of it all as well, and is in risk of going right down to the back of the field now because Chris Richardson's up the inside of him as they head down towards the Wilson hairpin for the first time. At the front of the field, it's Aidan Hills that's held on to the lead on this occasion. He didn't quite manage to do that in yesterday's race. Harding is through into, holding on to second I should say, ahead of our race 1 winner Luke Herbert in third. George Grant towards Palmer's, that's Bradley Kent up the inside in front of him. We're up the inside of Christopher Richardson, so he manages to stay out of last position. Down the hill we go then, Harding busily defending this second place. Gary Townsend into 5th place there, the yellow and black car, with James Blake Baldwin now trying to get up the inside of him as they go through Agostini. James really could do with a good result here, and he could do with getting away with the leading 4, because he didn't manage that in race 1, and then had that spin down at Agostini's, which dropped him momentarily down towards about 9th place. He fought back to 7th in the end, but that still was not the kind of result we expected from James. Leaders through Agostini though for the first time, Hills, Harding and Herbert. How many times have we said those 3 names together? Always in different orders it seems, but Aidan Hills, who very briefly was leading the race on the final lap of race 1, ended up falling down to 3rd though after that move didn't work, and now he's trying to pull away whilst they scrap behind, because Harding and Herbert are wheel to wheel for second position. Down the back straight they go. It might even be 3 abreast, because Harding has used the slipstream from Aidan Hills there to almost pull clear of Herbert and almost draw alongside for the race lead. That's James Blake Baldwin. Oh no, and he's collected by Will Stevenson. James Blake Baldwin, for the second race in a row, is off the track, this time in even more spectacular and I fear damaging style than in the first one. Bradley Kent off the road as well. Will Stevenson again in both races has failed to get through the first lap without contact. Blake Baldwin will try and recover, but if there's damage to the car, he may be forced into the pit lane to retire. We will monitor that situation with interest. The same goes for Stevenson as well. The leading trio, or quartet really, because Steve Roberts once again is going with them, head out of Murray's for the first time on board with George Grant, who's all over the curbs as he tries to attack. I presume that is going to be Nick Rutter again in the orange car in front of him. Backwards here then as they come across the start finish line. What a disastrous weekend this is turning into for James Blake Baldwin, who is usually fairly handy here, but things not quite going to plan this weekend it would seem, and his season is off to a really, really rubbish start. Hoping he can salvage something out of this race, and if not, through race 3, I can tell you actually James has pulled into the pit lane, so Blake Baldwin clearly had some damage, has pulled into the pits and appears to be out of the race. So drama already for one of our main championship protagonists. 4 of the other main championship protagonists though are absolutely together as they head down towards Agostini for the second time, and Jack Harding goes for the race lead. Big lock up there though, and had to be careful not to clatter into the back of Aidan Hills, so bailed out of the manoeuvre. He will have flat spotted his tyres though. He's slow off the corner as well, so Luke Herbert now draws alongside him through the left-hander. Oh dear, Luke Herbert can't quite go around the outside of Jack Harding. If Jack finishes on the podium in this race, by the way, he will have scored more podium finishes than anybody else in the history of the championship. Oh, George Grant, though, having one of the liveliest races of anyone we've seen in the championship for a while. He's off the track again, he's got dirt on his tyres, he's fighting the steering wheel. He's got past Nick Rutter at some point. He's now doing his very best to give Nick Rutter a place back, it would seem, but he fends him off again as they go through the right-hander at Williams onto the Bentley straight. I noticed that Will Stevenson's behind them, so he has continued after that lap 1 contact down here with Blake Baldwin, but at the head of the field, the fight for second place is looking rather entertaining now as Luke Herbert slides his way through Nelson Corner. Steve Roberts going with him a bit more this time around. Luke gesticulating at Steve there, saying if you work with me, we can both get past Jack, whereas if you start fighting me, neither of us will. So trying to convey that message in the heat of battle isn't always easy, but Luke Herbert, a bit of a pro these days at Mazda MX-5 racing. And, he knows a thing or two. So does Steve Roberts, though. He's come out of one-mate racing before this, but now starting to become a regular feature at the sharp end of the field is Steve. A frustrating season at times last year, but 2019 started off fairly well so far. George Grant covering with Stevenson behind us, whose car is twitching around like nobody's business through Corham and Murray's. We wonder if that car is not quite straight after that fairly hefty whack that he gave the rotating James Blake Baldwin. It's still quick in a straight line though with the slipstream, isn't it? Number 62, Will Stevenson, pulls alongside George Grant. Now he's got the outside line down towards Rich's corner, and he does have his nose in front, and you can carry good momentum around the outside here. Will backs out of it though, tries to get back in line, and Bradley Kent nearly throws it back up the inside. There's Patrick Fletcher. He's ahead of Gary Townsend now. Townsend had a good start, but Fletcher had a brilliant start to his season, his first ever season of MX-5 racing, and he was 5th in his first ever race. And in a field this competitive, that is no mean feat. Speaking of competitive, the fight for second place is proving to be very competitive at the moment, with Luke Herbert doing everything he can to overhaul Jack Harding in second position. Didn't do it into Agostini's, but that's allowing Aidan Hills to pull clear at the head of the field now. There's Patrick Fletcher then running in 6th position this time, because Will Stacey is ahead of him. Will was 6th in the previous race, but they are both running well again in this race. They've swapped positions from where they finished yesterday, but Will Stacey looking to try and get on the podium really, and again looking to become a championship threat. Patrick Fletcher has been used to being a championship threat in clear racing, so he won't really want to settle for being an also-ran in this. He's certainly approaching it with a competitive car, clearly. He's got to grips with it fairly rapidly. It won't be long before we see Patrick on the podium, I don't think. Down the back straight comes Aidan Hills and Luke Herbert with a big look up the inside of Jack Harding. This fight for second place is really holding them up now. Aidan Hills is pulling clear. You can see there the gap is over a second now as they come out of Nelson between these three, scrapping over second place. George Grant has still got Will Stevenson behind him, and this time Will's got the inside line down into Brundle, but that then becomes the outside at Nelson, so this might not work, and George Grant wasn't going to leave him any room on the inside line there, so Will again has to back out of the manoeuvre. Through the final turn then comes the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place train through that tight left-hand across the start-finish line again. Stevenson, this is Will Stevenson versus George Grant, take about 17 now, isn't it? Because they were almost overlapping once more into Corham. Bradley Kent is just itching to get involved with this scrap as well. Grant took a really defensive line into Murray's then, and you can see the speed it costs him on the exit, and Stevenson for the 2nd lap in a row has a big run, but he has to go to the outside line, and as soon as you pull out of that slipstream, it's like hitting a brick wall. There's a strong headwind down the pit straight as well, so you can get a good run in the toe, but then as soon as you pull out to pass, you sort of stop going anywhere really. You lose all your momentum and it's hard to make the move stick. Speaking of finding it hard to make a move stick, Luke Herbert still hasn't got past Jack Harding. He was on the outside line going into Palmer's, trying to get out the inside coming out of the corner so as to get the inside line for Agostini, but as you can see, Harding in the red and white number 43 car has that covered as well. Jack, a very, very strong defensive racer, and this will be frustrating Luke Herbert because he can see the race leader getting ever further away from them. Luke will feel, no doubt, that if he gets past Jack, he's probably got the pace to go after the leader. I think he's now trying to convey that message to Jack as well. But I somehow don't think Jack is going to roll over and let him go, because Jack, we made the point in race 1, lost out on the championship to Luke Herbert last year by just 4 points. That's 2 positions on the track. So imagine if Jack let Luke through in this race and then lost out by 2 or 4 points again at the end of the season. He would be ruining the day that he allowed Luke Herbert to go ahead of him without fighting. So it's worth sacrificing the race victory here maybe, so as to be able to keep Luke behind him for 2nd place. George Grant though is losing 2 positions there. Will Stevenson and Bradley Kent go through. Was good opportunistic driving there from Bradley as there's contact between Herbert and Harding going down the end of the back straight, and that was Herbert saying he did not want Harding to go around the outside there. And just a little tap. I don't think Jack will have appreciated that though. He will say that he was fully alongside going down the end of the back straight. Herbert will say that he was just taking the normal racing line into the corner. No real damage done though, except for the fact that Harding's latest opportunity to go through has come to nothing. got around the outside there, he would have had the inside line for the right-hander at Nelson, but it wasn't to be. So still, Luke Herbert is fending him off for the time being. Aidan Hills are getting further away from him in front of the field. And George Grant is back ahead of Bradley Kent now. We can see where that happened, but he's put himself back in front of the Essex and Kent Motorsport number 44 car. But Bradley carries lots of speed through the middle of Coram. Costs him a bit on the exit of the turn. Will George feel the need to defend into Murray's? Not really. So we're talking middle of the road line, but that is a bit slower on the exit of the corner than Bradley, who took the wide line in, tight line out approach, the traditional racing line in other words. Aidan Hills there, you can see the gap that he's got over Herbert Harding and Steve Roberts, still keeping a watching brief in fourth, but a bit like in race one, he just doesn't seem to, well, I don't know what he's lacking, but he can stay with them, just can't ever really seem to get within striking distance, although he closes in now nicely on Jack Harding as they come through Palmer's. And actually, Harding and Roberts are the closest pair of cars now in this group. Is Steve Roberts about to attack to try and get himself back onto the podium, or onto the podium for the first time this year, as to say? Yes, he is. He's up the inside of Harding, and they almost lean on each other. Jack was always going to turn into the apex there, though, and in fairness, Steve had come from some way back, so it would have been a fairly spectacular bit of contact had they met in the middle, but I think Steve sensibly backed out of it. He knows firsthand that contact in this championship is sort of penalised fairly sternly. Oh, Bradley Kent with a real lunge up the inside of George Grant. Now, Bradley just about made the corner, but George was almost on the grass trying to avoid contact. He's now back up the inside at Hamilton, and Bradley fends him off. It's been a really entertaining scrap race. They're outside the top 10, but it's still great fun to watch. Leading quartet, though, are back at Brundle and Nelson. In the background, you can see the blue car of Will Stacey is still fifth, but Patrick Fletcher is a bit closer to him now, so the fight for best of the rest behind these leading four is starting to intensify slightly. Might just catch a glimpse of them there, only a couple of car lengths apart as they turn through the S's. Into the second half of the race then. Now Steve Roberts over the curb out of the bomb hole. It's advisable. Sun glinting off the cars now. I reckon this lead gap's coming down on this occasion, actually. We mentioned in race one that tyre pressures are crucial in these warm conditions. I know I spoke to Jack Harding pre-race and he said that he might have made a tyre pressure adjustment so that he had better pace towards the end of the race. Well, maybe Aidan Hills has gone the other way, because whilst he came on strong in the first race through the second half, in this one he seems to be fading a bit and they're getting a bit closer to him now. This has been close all the way there, hasn't it, between these two, George Grant and Bradley Kent. It's Grant back in front now, despite that ambitious lunge that was made and very briefly successfully executed by Bradley Kent and Agostini early on in the lap. Now, out of our view, George Grant's gone back ahead of him, so this is one of the best battles on the track. It keeps toing and froing, and corner by corner, they are jostling for position. You can see there, though, even with a slipstream, there's not much to choose in straight line performance, is there? Meanwhile, Patrick Fletcher is now right with Will Stacey. This is the fight for fifth position as they head out of the hairpin down towards Palmer's. But look at this for the race lead. It's nose to tail now between the leading three. Aidan Hills, over the course of a lap or so, has lost what was well over a 1 second cushion, and it's now down to virtually nothing. Then we've got Will Stacey and Patrick Fletcher still debating fifth position, and that's even closer actually, because Patrick very briefly is alongside there on the outside at Agostini. Tries to carry speed out of the corner, but Hamilton, the next turn, is not really an overtaking opportunity. Oggies after that is, though, so a good run through here for Fletcher, and he could be able to get to the inside line at the next right-hander, but Stacey, if anything, was the quicker of the two through that corner, and so he will hang on to fifth place for now. Back out of the tighter of the two right-handers here that lead you onto the back straight. Fletcher, the 29 machine, in the tow, whether he can do anything with it this time down the back straight. Meanwhile, George Grant, guess what? He's racing with Bradley Kent, who takes an ambitious lunge again up the inside of Oggies, and that was an ambitious line out of Hamilton. I'll tell you what, they might not be fighting for the race victory, but I bet both of these drivers will have a big grin on their face when they climb out of their cars afterwards. So too, I think, will Patrick Fletcher, because he's back into the top 5 now. He did do something with the slipstream. He took fifth place away from Will Stevenson with it. Will now try and use that slipstream to fight back at some point, probably not this part of the circuit, maybe down into Riches at the start of the next lap, and that is where I think we're about to see an attack for the race lead, because Luke Herbert, with just over a third of the race still to go, is now within touching distance of Aidan Hills. The trouble is that he's brought Jack Harding and Steve Roberts with him, so again he's in this infuriating position of feeling like he's quick enough to attack for the race lead, but knowing that if he loses even the slightest bit of momentum, he could lose 1 or 2 positions to the two drivers behind, and they're both drivers that he can ill afford to lose points to. George Grant still busy as he tries to now fend off Bradley Kent. Every time we cut to them, they've changed positions because Kent had gone through at the previous shot and now George is back in front again. So really entertaining scrapping further back. At the head of the field, the positions aren't changing as rapidly as they are further back, but there's plenty of potential for that to happen because they are not able to separate each other, are they? Herbert, having caught Hills though, wasn't really able to do anything with that momentum, and now he's sort of got stuck behind Aiden, running at his pace. Fastest lap on this race was actually set last time around by Luke Herbert. That's no great surprise. 2 minutes 15.455, which is 2/10 quicker than Steve Roberts managed to go in yesterday's race when he set the fastest lap. So right now, honours even between Hills and Herbert, because Herbert in second place would score 98 points plus 2 for the fastest lap. So he would score 100 points, exactly the same amount of points that a race victory is worth. So in a way, it's not hugely worth taking a big risk here. He's not losing any points to anybody. But if he gets through, it's still an extra 2 championship points for him, isn't it? And Luke really could do with those points through the right-hander at Williams. 4 of them, though, he could throw a very small blanket over the lot of them, as was the case through most of race 1. Herbert definitely close enough to get a toe here, though. Tries to get to the inside. That's never going to happen, though, surely, or is it? Well, he thought about it, but Aiden Hills did have it covered, so Herbert goes to the outside line. Long way around Brundle to try and get the inside line for Nelson, but it's the dirty side of the road as well, and it's not going to work. Aiden Hills is good enough, carries enough speed through Brundle, despite being on the tight inside line, that he gets to the apex at Nelson ahead. Sideways for both of them through the bomb hole. Sense that this might require a mistake to come from Aiden Hills, and we saw in that race at Alton Park where he took his first ever victory last year. He doesn't make many mistakes, even when he's under intense pressure from Luke Herbert and Jack Harding, as he was on that occasion. Side by side here between Bradley Kent and Nick Rutter now, so Kent has finally got the better of George Grant and is now putting a car between them, and that's the orange car of Rutter. Kent goes around the outside at Brundle, inside at Nelson, then slides out wide on the exit of the corner. George Grant's rubbing his hands with glee now, because any time he had lost to these two is now being regained very rapidly as they keep running side by side and losing momentum. Look at that, he's right back with them now, so Bradley Kent goes through, but Nick Rutter will now feel the pressure from behind. Aiden Hills really feeling pressure now at the front of the pack. Look at this, they're closer than ever now through the hairpin. Hills, Herbert, Harding, Roberts, one of them surely is going to take the victory here in race number 2, but who is it going to be? Jack Harding in third position, looking to equal Alan Henderson's win record if he could win this one. He and Tom Roach tied on 14 points apiece, with Alan Henderson the winningest driver in history on 15, but of course Alan and Tom don't race in the championship these days. Alan is here this weekend though, supporting the AK Automotive squad. Oh, contact between Hills and Herbert. Herbert went to the outside of Agostini. I didn't think anything was going to come of that, but then Aiden Hills locked up and ran wide straight into his teammate Luke Herbert, and that opens the door perfectly for Jack Harding to get up the inside. So Harding into second position now, and Luke Herbert down to third, and it could become fourth before much longer, because Steve Roberts is trying now to attack as well. So, well, that again exploded into action out of nowhere, a bit like the final lap of race 1, where I sort of thought all of the positions were set until Luke Herbert missed a gear coming out of this corner, Williams, and that allowed Aiden Hills to attack, and that sparked off that fantastic sequence of corners at the end of the final lap of the race. Well, again there, Hills seemed to have it all covered, and then locked up and ran wide, clattered into the side of Luke Herbert, and that's cost Luke a position. Luke, they're trying to do something about it immediately as he applies the pressure now to the 43 car of Jack Harding. Jack's hanging on. Herbert in the tail tracks now as he heads into the bomb hole. Steve Roberts again has closed in as a result of that battling, but hasn't ever really looked likely to get past either of them, but he might look into a second place if they keep ducking and diving like that. There was almost contact between the two of them there, and this once again is giving Aiden Hills some breathing room. Every time Harding is in second place and Herbert's attacking him, they do seem to hold each other up, because Harding is just having to defend so much around the circuit to keep Herbert behind. Bradley Kent and Nick Rutter continue their dice, and Rutter was trying to do to Kent what Kent did to him a lap ago. He ran too wide through Brundle, got on the grass, and then does everything he can do to keep George Grant from going through. Next, over the curb to Coram once again, and George Grant hammering all over the back of Nick Rutter. The leaders, though, are onto the final lap already, and I think that this battling for second place might have just handed the victory to Aidan Hills, but it's a long old lap here. An awful lot can happen in 2¼ minutes, so I'm not counting any chickens just yet, but Aidan Hills may just be on his way to his first victory of the season, a victory that he very nearly took yesterday, but in the end he has to wait until the second round of the championship potentially to get the win. This would be his third career victory if he can get it, but the question really is what's going to happen for second place. Harding is defending second, he runs out wide at Agostini, he outbrakes himself, and he's going to allow Luke Herbert through at the corner at which he passed him a lap ago. So Herbert back into second. Has he got time to do anything about Aidan Hills? I think he is a bit quicker than Aidan at this stage of the race, but the gap was almost a second again at the start of the final lap, and in fact Harding is fighting back, trying to get second place away. These are valuable championship points. It's going to come down to the wire again this season, you have to imagine. We may only be in round number 2 of the championship, but you can already foreshadow how close this is going to be come the end of the season at Donington Park. And it's starting right from the word go. Herbert second, Harding third, pulls out of the slipstream, not to attack this time though, but to try and defend from Steve Roberts, who finally on the last lap of the race is becoming a real factor in the podium battle. Tries to go around the outside of Jack Harding, who outbrakes himself again there in his attempts to defend third position. Snatches a break, nearly runs into the side of Luke Herbert's car. But with 3 corners to go, Aidan Hills might just have done enough now to take his first victory of the season. And with Luke Herbert down in second position, it will be very tight between the two of them in the early championship points race. Through Corham they go, down into Murray's for the final time. And despite the fact that Luke Herbert is catching on this final lap, I don't think he's actually going to catch Aidan Hills before the checkered flag. So it will be a Rob Boston Racing 1-2, but it will be Aidan Hills who takes his first victory of the season. Luke Herbert is second, Jack Harding is third, Steve Roberts comes home in 4th position, Patrick Fletcher another top 5, with Will Stacey, Gary Townsend, Simon Baldwin, David Henderson and Bradley Kent rounding out the top 10. Nick Rutter is 11th, George Grant 12th and Christopher Richardson 13th, Jack Sycamore and James Blake Baldwin crucially non-finish, whilst Will Stevenson was excluded from the result post-race. Well, Aidan, congratulations, career win number 3, and that one was a bit of a strange race, wasn't it? It looked like it was going to be a fairly calm affair until about mid-race distance.
Yeah, the beginning of the race was really good. You know, Jack obviously didn't quite have the pace that we had, so the car was perfect for the first few laps, and I managed to really gap him. And I saw Luke get into second, and I thought, I know me and him are about the similar pace, so when he's chasing, he's going to be able to catch up. And the car started to go off a little bit, so yeah, second half of the race, I come across the line 10 minutes to go. Luke was in second, and I think I drove in my mirrors for the rest of it, just trying to manage the gap and obviously just put the car in the right sort of places. And yeah, it was good to get the first win this early in the season and 2 podiums out of 2, so yeah, good points.
Luke, second place then in the second race of the weekend here at Snetterton. Very hot out there, temperature-wise, and the racing equally so.
Yeah, I mean the car was phenomenal. Engine was on top performance. Car was on top performance. I had the pace to win. Problem is, it's easy here to overtake and take the lead if there's 2 of you. If there's 4 of you, it's impossible. You've got to defend, attack. You know, everyone's got each other's toe. The easiest place to be in there is 4th. Not that anyone wants to be there, but you know that's the easiest place to be. Aidan drove well. You know, we had a little touch and hairpin when he locked up. You know, got a bit lively out there. But one make series, you've got 23-year-olds in here that are, at the top of their game. You know, I'm 30. I feel old at 30. But you know, I'm happy with second. We got the fastest lap, so yeah, pleased with that. Good start to the weekend. Yeah, win yesterday and a second today.
Well, Jack, congratulations. That's another podium finish. You're 39th to be precise, which means you've now finished on the podium more than anybody else in the history of the championship. A decent day's work so far.
Yeah, it's always nice to break some sort of record. I just wish I'd have done a little bit better in the race, but no, it's we salvaged a podium out of what could have been quite a bad race at times. I had a bit of a fight with Luke, and Aidan was getting away at the start, and I just wanted to try and catch back up with Aidan, but Luke never wants to work with me. I think if he'd have just pushed me for one lap, we'd have been back up there. So as soon as it reversed round and Luke went in front of me, I worked with him, and so we soon caught Aidan. So I just wish we'd have done that earlier. But no, it's just early on in the season. I think a few people are getting a little bit too excited and a bit of contact. But like I said, we salvaged podium out of it, so it's a good race.